Well, in Northeast Florida, and we cover 7 counties in Northeast Florida, the population of 60 and older is right now over 400,000 elders, age 60 and older. That is expected to double in 20 years. That's a huge impact on our community. And that's just 60 and older. The fastest growing older population is the 70 and older and the 80 and older. And you're talking over 200,000 elders who are age 70 and older. And it's no surprise today to even find people who are over their hundreds now. When it used to be something that was celebrated on the news every once in a while, now it's not a big deal. It's happening all the time. What this means to our community is that the infrastructure that's in place is not ready for an aging community. Things that we have to look at are housing, housing that's affordable for elders, and also suitable for people to grow old in. Right now, that's, you're looking at homes with steps and so on, and high cabinets and bathrooms that aren't accessible. And we need to start thinking about that. We're already seeing the impact of the elders who we serve, who we have to make certain accommodations for in their housing. Also, transportation, mobility. We're talking now about a group of people who, some, in case of women, were never drivers. Their husbands have passed, and now they're without transportation. We have the more older adults we have, and the older they become, the more people want them to stop driving. But there's not necessarily alternatives to them driving. There's not the infrastructure to support that older population. Also, employment, income, that's more and more challenging, and healthcare, affordable healthcare and accessible healthcare for an aging population. These are all issues we're facing now, but as that population doubles going into the future, those are going to be even more important. Well, we know that women outlive men, so they're living longer and living alone longer. That's important because you have women who may need help, especially current generation of older women, with finances. Also with chore. Women, can use help with heavy chore, with home repairs, home modifications. This is really the same for older men, but probably more so for older women. Because transportation is such an issue, mobility is an issue, and accessibility, being able to get out, to get to their appointments, to socialize with friends, is an issue for older women. And what happens is they will shut in their home, and now you're dealing with mental health issues, depression and other declining health issues of older women, and issues that are unique to women, health concerns that are unique to women. Also, income. They may not have worked or worked as much or worked in the high-paying jobs. And so their retirement and their funds during retirement are much reduced. And so being able to afford living on their own now is an issue for women. I mentioned accessibility into the community, but also accessibility within their home is important. Mobility. Having a walkable community is very important for women. Being able to get out and walk to what they need is very important. And right now, that's also one of the concerns we have as the population ages, is our community is not a walkable community. That becomes even more important for the women as they age. Well, there is a lot that needs to be done for older women and for older people in general in our community. And a lot of it could be done, but it takes some policymakers and elected officials to be bold and to understand what the issues are. One of the things that we're looking to do is actually to have a study done of Northeast Florida, of the elder readiness of our community. People have been putting that off, thinking it's, not today, it's not a problem today, but it is a problem today. It's a very real problem today, and unfortunately that's going to become a bigger problem as that older population doubles in size. And so we're hoping that an older readiness study that we could bring to policymakers and elected officials will put it right in front of the faces and ask people to be bold and to do what they need to do to make this community elder ready. Another unique aspect of older women needs is caregiving.
That's my next question.
And, women tend to be the caregiver. Now, not always, so I don't want to stereotype, because there are plenty of men who are caregivers and very good caregivers. But typically it's been a woman's role. whether they're caring for their spouse, caring for a parent, caring for a sibling, or now their children, because you have older adults who are so much older that they are often the caregiver for an older adult child. And now you have women who are grandparents raising grandchildren. And so you have these women in multiple generations being the caregiver. And that's a big issue for older women, something that they could use more support of. One of the challenges is funding for these programs and services. So, we talked about infrastructure. That requires policymakers and elected officials to allocate the funding to do and to set priorities to do what needs to be done. But in terms of the support services in the community, that demand continues to grow every day. We already have almost 4,000 people on our waiting lists. And there's just not enough funding to support everybody. So, it's with the right resources, it's doable. The study that we're talking about is something that we could use to get people's attention. But it takes strong advocates to speak on behalf of elders and to say this is what's needed. I think as boomers age and have some of these needs that we're talking about more and more, we're talking about a generation that were activists and outspoken as a cohort. So I'm hoping that will effect change and bring around change. Well, older adults are a wonderful resource, and in so many ways. And too often we focus on their needs, and we think that they're all needy and a drain on our society. And in fact, that's not the case. That's a very small percentage of the elders in our community are in that situation where they are needy and are dependent on those resources. More are actually very engaged in the community and are very well and healthy and are doing well, and are a wonderful resource to the community, and we need to remember that. Often, they make great volunteers. We use volunteers here at ElderSource in our Shine program, and they make a huge difference in the lives of their peers. Huge. Also, volunteers other volunteer opportunities are at senior centers, home delivered meal routes. If it weren't for older adults as volunteers delivering those meals, it would be very costly to our agencies who have to deliver those meals. Other opportunities are mentoring in schools, helping kids learn in school, and to have a mentor who have such wisdom and experience to share. So there's lots of volunteer opportunities for older adults. They make wonderful volunteers. They are dedicated. They work hard. They also make really great employees. Now that's a challenge in this time with the economy the way it is. Another issue and another concern for older adults in general is income and employment. Again, even more so for women, because they're now competing with younger individuals for those jobs. But they make wonderful employees. They have a work ethic that you don't always see in more recent generations. They're on time. They work hard, and they're so willing to learn new skills. So there are lots of opportunities out there, and they're happening today. Well, bringing older adults into a nonprofit really should not be hard, and it's a little disappointing to hear that that's the case. We hire them here. I hire them like I would hire anybody if they're skilled and they have what I need, and they're in positions now. Also, for our volunteers, we make sure it's meaningful work. Our Shine program is like that. That's not an envelope stuffing position. And so, we have evidence here of how we can use elders in a meaningful way, in a way that's meaningful to them as well. I think what it's going to take is building awareness, continuing this conversation. We do an aging sensitivity training here that helps quite a bit to have folks understand some of the changes that come with older adults. What is normal aging? What is not normal aging? What kind of accommodations you can make? And it's really a matter of people understanding what those changes are in an older adult, what's normal and what's not, and having an open mind and just being aware. And I think we just need to do a better job probably of making everyone aware. If I had my 3 wishes for what I would do to help older adults and women in particular in our community, I would start with having an elder-ready community, and whatever it is that that takes. That includes mobility, transportation, housing, employment, having a walkable community for older adults. And really, if you do that for older adults, then it's good for everybody, you know? So that would be the first thing that's my top of the list for a wish list. The other is support for caregivers, particularly women as caregivers. This government would go broke overnight if we had to pay for the care that our caregivers provide at no cost. And they do this because they see this as their role as wife or as mother or as sister. But we could not afford to provide that care otherwise. And we need to provide them the support that they need to be able to do that and do it well. All too often, those caregivers become clients because they have worn themselves out as a caregiver. And we need them to stay strong and healthy and well as caregivers. The other is health prevention, and focused on women's health issues. Prevention is worth so much, and we could save so much more on the front end, providing health prevention versus health care at the back end. So those would be my three top priorities. I think one last thing that's important to share is to be cognizant of the contributions of elders as well as the needs. But, the mark of a civil society and how we are doing as a community is how we treat our young and our old. And all too often it's the old that are forgotten. And we need to remember that they built our community and that they deserve our support. And with that makes us a better community because we will gain from that as well.